The stars looked normal that night. No one on Earth knew what was coming. No one except Captain Susan Miller, who stared at her monitor with growing dread. The blips on her radar were too big, too numerous, and moving too fast to be anything natural. "Are you sure about these readings?" she asked her team at Earth Defense Force headquarters. Lieutenant Paul Green nodded. "Confirmed, Captain. 300 vessels approaching from the outer solar system. Nothing like we've ever seen before." Susan rubbed her tired eyes. Humanity had only recently discovered they weren't alone in the universe. First contact with the Galactic Council had been peaceful but tense. Earth was considered primitive by galactic standards, barely worth noticing. That had been just 6 months ago. Now this. "Send the alert up the chain," she ordered, "and get me a direct line to Lunar Base Alpha." Millions of miles away, aboard the massive flagship of the Draconian Obsidian Fleet, Admiral Krell stood with his forearms clasped behind his back. His scaled skin reflected the blue glow of the command center as he watched the small blue planet grow larger on the view screen. "Pathetic," he said to his second-in-command. 3 millennia of Draconian expansion, and this is what the Council worried about? Soft-skinned primitives who haven't even colonized their own moon properly? Commander Vex bowed slightly. "The Council merely suggested caution, Admiral. This species developed faster than most. From radio waves to basic space travel in less than a century." Krell snorted, releasing a small puff of smoke from his nostrils. "And yet they remain confined to one world. The Empire needs this system's resources. We will give them the standard options: surrender and serve, or resist and perish." "The fleet is ready, Admiral. We will reach optimal strike position in 3 hours." Krell nodded. "Begin the standard intimidation approach. Let them see us coming. Let them tremble." On the moon, Commander Joe Thompson wasn't trembling. He was too busy to be afraid. The sensors at Lunar Base Alpha had picked up the approaching armada before Earth did, and as chief scientist, he had immediately diverted power to his experimental lab. "More power to the quantum displacement field," he told his assistant. "This might be our only chance to test at full capacity." His assistant, a young engineer named Ryan Woods, looked nervous. "Sir, the protocols say we need authorization for a full-scale test, and there's an alien fleet approaching." "Which is exactly why we need to try now," Joe said, typing rapidly. "If this works, we might have something to defend ourselves with. If it doesn't..." He shrugged. "Well, we're probably doomed anyway." The quantum displacement project was theoretical, barely more than an idea with some promising test results. It was supposed to create a small bubble of altered spacetime. In theory, it could be used to instantly transport materials across vast distances. In practice, they had only managed to make a pencil disappear once, with no idea where it went. "Captain, Miller's calling," Ryan said, pointing at the flashing screen. Joe answered the call while continuing his work. I know. Big, scary alien fleet, I'm already on it." Susan's face on the screen was grim. "Thompson, this isn't a joke. We've intercepted communications. They're calling themselves the Draconian Empire, and from what we can tell, they don't come in peace." "Which is why you need me to finish this," Joe replied. "How long do we have?" "Less than 3 hours before they reach optimal strike position, whatever that means." Joe nodded. "That should be enough time. I'm going to try something big, Susan, really big. Just don't blow up the moon," she said before ending the call. In Washington, D.C., the highest levels of government were in emergency session. General Frank Carter stood before the President and the Joint Chiefs, his face a mask of professional calm that hid his inner turmoil. "Madam President, I won't sugarcoat this. Our most advanced weapons would be like throwing rocks at a tank. The alien fleet outmatches us in every way." The President looked around the room. "Options?" "We have none," General Carter said simply. "We can't fight. We can't run. Our only play is to negotiate. I've already contacted our liaison to the Galactic Council, Laura Bennett. She's trying to establish communication." One of the Joint Chiefs spoke up. "What about that science project on the moon? The displacement thing?" General Carter shook his head. "It's theoretical technology. Years from practical application. The president straightened her jacket. Tell Commander Thompson he has full authorization to try anything that might help, and get our best diplomats ready. We'll talk first, but prepare all defense systems. Humanity won't go down without a fight. Back on the moon, Joe Thompson had turned the small lab into a hive of activity. The quantum displacement field generator hummed louder than ever before, drawing massive power from the base's reactors. Field, stability at 89%, Ryan called out. Power levels holding steady. Joe nodded, making final adjustments. We need to extend the field radius to maximum. If this works, it should create a bubble large enough to envelop at least part of their fleet. And then what? Ryan asked. Joe gave a small, nervous laugh. That's the big question, isn't it? Best case, we send them somewhere else. Worst case, nothing happens, and we've wasted our time. In orbit around Mars, the Draconian fleet began its final approach formation. Admiral Krell watched with satisfaction as his ships spread into the attack pattern that had conquered 1,000 worlds. Send the standard surrender message, he ordered. Give them 1 hour to respond before we begin the bombardment. The message was broadcast on all frequencies in perfect English. People of Earth, you are now in the domain of the Draconian Empire. Surrender your world and serve, or resist and be destroyed. You have 1 hour to decide. On Earth, the message was received with horror by billions of people. Social media exploded with panic. Some people ran, though there was nowhere to go. Others prayed. Many simply hugged their loved ones and waited. In Lunar Base Alpha, Joe Thompson made his final calculations. Field stability at 95%, Ryan reported. It's never been this stable before. Because we've never used this much power, Joe replied. Ready for activation on my mark. He took a deep breath, his finger hovering over the activation key. 3, 2, 1, mark. The lab hummed, then roared. The lights flickered as power surged through the systems. On their monitors, they could see the invisible quantum field expanding outward from the moon, growing larger and larger, extending toward the approaching fleet. On the Draconian flagship, alarms suddenly blared. Admiral, Commander Vex shouted. We're detecting a massive energy surge from the moon. Krell leaned forward. What kind of weapon is this? Unknown, sir. Our sensors can't identify it. It's like nothing in our database. Krell snarled. Impossible. These primitives can't have technology we don't recognize. Raise shields. Prepare to... He never finished the sentence. The quantum displacement field reached the leading edge of the Draconian fleet and something unexpected happened. Instead of creating a transportation bubble, it tore a hole in the fabric of reality itself. The space around the Draconian ships shimmered, twisted, and then they were gone. All 300 ships, including Admiral Krell and his flagship, vanished completely. No explosion. No debris. Just empty space where moments before had been the mightiest armada in the galaxy. In Lunar Base Alpha, Joe and Ryan stared at their readings in disbelief. What just happened? Ryan whispered. Joe shook his head slowly. I have no idea. They're just... gone. Captain Susan Miller's voice came through the speakers, high with tension. Thompson, the alien fleet just disappeared from all our sensors. What did you do? I'm not sure, Joe admitted. We need to run diagnostics. But whatever happened, it wasn't what we expected. As news spread across Earth that the threat had mysteriously vanished, relief turned to confusion. But across the galaxy, the reaction was very different. The complete disappearance of the most powerful military force in known space sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council. Within hours, emergency sessions were called. Fear spread through the Draconian Empire. Subjugated species began to whisper. A primitive world called Earth had somehow made the invincible Obsidian fleet vanish without a trace. And suddenly, everyone in the galaxy was watching Earth very, very carefully. 3 days after the Draconian fleet vanished, Earth was still celebrating. People filled the streets, relief mixed with pride that somehow their planet had survived. Few understood what had actually happened, but that didn't stop the wild theories. Earth was protected by angels, Earth had secret weapons. Earth was special. But in a quiet room at the United Nations building in New York, the mood was very different. Laura Bennett sat across from Ambassador Zix Voon, trying not to stare at the alien's 6 eyes or the way its skin changed colors with its emotions. Currently, the ambassador was a deep purple, the color of suspicion. "Once again, Ms. Bennett," Zix Voon said, its voice a strange musical hum. "The Galactic Council requires an explanation. 300 Draconian warships do not simply disappear." Laura took a deep breath. At 32, she was the youngest diplomat ever appointed as Earth's representative to the Galactic Council. 6 months ago, her job didn't even exist. "Ambassador, I've told you everything we know. We detected the fleet, we received their threat, and then they vanished. We're as confused as you are." Zix Voon's skin flickered to red. "That is not possible. The Draconian Empire has ruled most of the galaxy for 3,000 years. Their obsidian fleet has conquered hundreds of worlds. And you expect me to believe they were defeated by accident?" Before Laura could answer, the door opened. General Frank Carter walked in, followed by Commander Joe Thompson. Both men looked like they hadn't slept in days. "Ambassador," General Carter nodded respectfully, "I've brought our chief scientist from Lunar Base Alpha. If anyone can explain what happened, it's him." Joe looked uncomfortable in his wrinkled uniform. He was more at home in a lab than a diplomatic meeting. "I'm not sure I can explain it fully," he admitted. "We were testing an experimental quantum displacement field. It was supposed to create a small transportation bubble, but something went wrong. Or right, depending on how you look at it." Zix Voon's 6 eyes all focused on Joe. "You created a weapon that can make entire fleets vanish?" "Not exactly," Joe said. "It wasn't designed as a weapon, and we can't reproduce the effect. Not yet anyway. We're still analyzing the data." Laura noticed the shift in the ambassador's color, from red to a curious orange. She had been studying Zix Voon's species and knew that orange meant calculating interest. "The Council will want proof," the ambassador said, "and the Draconian Empire is demanding answers. They have already sent another fleet to your system." The humans exchanged alarmed looks. "More ships?" General Carter asked. "How many?" "Twice as many as before," Zix Voon replied. "They will arrive in 14 Earth days, and this time they will not approach directly. They are sending infiltration units ahead to discover your secrets." Laura leaned forward. "Ambassador, we need your help. Earth doesn't want war. What happened was an accident." Zix Voon's color shifted to blue on skepticism. "A very convenient accident. You must understand how this appears to the galaxy. A primitive world somehow defeats the most powerful fleet ever assembled. Every subjugated species is now looking to Earth as a potential savior." Joe rubbed his eyes. "Look, I need to get back to my lab. If there's any chance of understanding what happened, I need more data." General Carter nodded. "Go. Take whatever resources you need." After Joe left, Laura turned back to the ambassador. "We're being honest with you. Earth has no superweapon." Zix Voon stood up, towering over the humans. "Then you are in grave danger. The Draconians will not stop until they have conquered your world or learned your secrets. And now other species are interested too. Some want alliance, others want your technology, and some simply want to destroy you before you become too powerful." The ambassador moved to the window, looking out at the New York skyline. "Your world has suddenly become the most important planet in the galaxy, Ms. Bennett. I suggest you prepare accordingly." Back at Lunar Base Alpha, Joe found Dr. Alice Young waiting for him. Alice was the newest addition to his team, a physicist with specialties in quantum mechanics and dimensional theory. She had been sent up from Earth specifically to help with the investigation. "Commander Thompson," she greeted him. "I've reviewed your data. I think I know what happened to the Draconian fleet." Joe raised his eyebrows. "That was fast." Alice smiled. "I had a head start. I've been theorizing about interdimensional pockets for years. Nobody took me seriously until now." She led him to a computer display showing complex equations and models. "Your quantum displacement field didn't transport the fleet somewhere else in our universe. It created a fold in reality, a pocket dimension, and the fleet got caught in it like bugs in amber. Joe stared at the screen, trying to process this. Are you saying they're still here? Just in another dimension? Exactly. And there's more. She pulled up a new image showing energy readings. The pocket is unstable. It's still connected to our reality by the thinnest of threads. That's why we're picking up fragments of their communications in the upper atmosphere. On the other side of the moon, hidden from Earth's view, Captain Susan Miller piloted a small research vessel through the lunar orbit. Her mission was classified. She was looking for any physical traces of the Draconian fleet. Adjusting course to match the fleet's last known position, she told her co-pilot, Lieutenant Paul Green. Still getting those strange atmospheric readings, Paul reported. It's like echoes, radio signals that repeat but decay with each repetition. Susan frowned. Play them again. The speakers crackled with static, then fragments of alien voices. Shields failing. Position unknown. Emergency. Admiral Krell demands. They're still alive, Susan whispered. Somewhere. Paul checked his instruments. The signal is strongest here, exactly where the fleet vanished. What does it mean? I don't know, Susan admitted, but we need to tell Commander Thompson immediately. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the news of Earth's victory spread like wildfire. On the planet Nor-7, a world that had been under Draconian control for centuries, people gathered in secret to whisper about Earth. They say these humans have no scales, no claws, one rebel said to the others, and yet they defeated the Obsidian fleet. How? Another asked. Some kind of magic that makes ships disappear. The Draconians sent their best admiral and now he's gone. Hope, long crushed under the Draconian boot, began to flicker back to life. On Earth, General Carter met with world leaders to plan Earth's defense. We need to prepare for the worst, he told them. We got lucky once, we can't count on that happening again. What about this quantum technology? The president asked. Can we use it again? General Carter shook his head. Thompson says it was a fluke. They're trying to understand it, but right now we have nothing. Then we need to bluff, another leader suggested. Make them think we can do it again. The president nodded slowly. A dangerous game, but it might be our only option. In space, hidden among the debris of an old satellite, a small Draconian scout ship watched Earth. Inside, Agent Crix received his orders directly from the new fleet commander. Find their weapon, the commander hissed. Discover how they destroyed our fleet. You have 10 Earth days before we arrive. Crix bowed his scaled head. It will be done, Commander. I will not fail the Empire. As the humans scrambled to understand what had happened and prepare for what was coming, the galaxy held its breath. The tiny blue planet had just changed everything, and nobody, not even the humans themselves, understood exactly how. Dr. Alice Young hadn't left the lab in 3 days. Empty coffee cups surrounded her workstation as she stared at the simulation running on her screen. Commander Joe Thompson walked in, carrying 2 fresh cups and a sandwich. You need to eat, he said, placing the food next to her. Alice barely looked up. I'm close to something, Joe. Look at these readings. Joe leaned over her shoulder. The screen showed a shifting pattern of energy waves. The pocket dimension is like a bubble. Alice explained. It exists alongside our reality but separate from it, and inside that bubble the Draconian fleet is trapped. Are they still alive? Joe asked. Alice nodded. Based on the communication fragments Captain Miller recorded, yes. But time works differently there. What's been days for us might be seconds for them. Can we get them out? Alice took a bite of the sandwich, suddenly realizing how hungry she was. Maybe. But there's a problem. The pocket is unstable. It's shrinking, and when it collapses, what happens? The energy release could destroy half our solar system. Joe dropped into a chair. How long do we have? A week. Maybe less. In orbit around Earth, the small vessel carrying Captain Susan, Miller continued its search pattern. Her instruments were picking up stronger signals now. The communications are getting clearer, Lieutenant Paul Green said. It's like they're getting closer to our reality somehow. Susan frowned. Or the barrier. between dimensions is getting thinner. The radio suddenly crackled with a clear voice. This is Admiral Krell of the Draconian Empire. Our systems are failing. We are trapped in unknown space. If anyone receives this message... The transmission cut off. Susan and Paul looked at each other. That was no fragment, Paul said. That was real-time communication. Susan quickly adjusted her controls. We need to record everything and contact Dr. Young immediately. On Earth, Laura Bennett was having another difficult meeting with Ambassador Zix Voon. The Galactic Council is divided, the ambassador said. Some believe Earth should be contained before your power grows too. Great. Others wish to form alliances. We don't want war with anyone, Laura insisted. We just want to be left alone. That is no longer possible, Zix Voon replied. You have altered the balance of power in the galaxy. The Draconian Empire is facing rebellions on 12 worlds. Species they've dominated for centuries are rising up, all because of what you did. What we accidentally did, Laura corrected. The ambassador's skin shifted to a thoughtful green. Perhaps, but intention matters less than perception, and the perception is that Earth has power. Their conversation was interrupted by General Carter entering the room. Ambassador Ms. Bennett. He nodded to them. We have a situation. Our security teams captured an intruder at Lunar Base Alpha, a Draconian infiltrator. Laura stood up quickly. Was anyone hurt? No. The intruder was caught before he could do any damage. He's being transported to a secure facility now. Ambassador. Zix Voon's skin turned a surprised yellow. They sent infiltrators already? That's faster than expected. The Empire must be truly frightened. In a secure room deep beneath a military base, Agent Crix sat chained to a metal table. Despite his situation, the Draconian spy maintained a proud posture, his scaled skin glistening under the harsh lights. Across from him sat General Carter and Laura Bennett. We know why you're here, General Carter said. You want to learn about our weapon. Crix hissed softly. You primitive mammals got lucky once. It won't happen again. When our main fleet arrives, we will burn your world to ash. Laura leaned forward. What if I told you there was no weapon? That what happened to your fleet was an accident? Crix's yellow eyes narrowed. Impossible. No accident could defeat the Obsidian fleet. But it did, Laura said. And now we have another problem. Your fleet isn't destroyed. They're trapped in a pocket dimension that's becoming unstable. If it collapses, the energy release could destroy the solar system, including the second fleet when it arrives. Crix stared at her, searching for lies. You expect me to believe this? Take him to Lunar Base Alpha, General Carter said suddenly. Let him see the evidence himself. Laura looked surprised. General, is that wise? If what Dr. Young tells us is true, we're all facing the same threat now. Draconian or human, we all die if that pocket dimension collapses. At Lunar Base Alpha, Dr. Young and Commander Thompson had made a breakthrough. With Captain Miller's new recordings, they had managed to establish a weak but stable communication link with the trapped fleet. Admiral Krell, this is Earth Command. Joe spoke into the transmitter. We are working to rescue your fleet. Please confirm you can hear us. The response came through with static but was understandable. This is Admiral Krell. Our systems are failing. We are running out of air. What is happening to us? You're trapped in a pocket dimension, a bubble between realities, Joe explained. We accidentally created it when you approached Earth. We're trying to get you out. Accidental? Krell's voice was filled with disbelief. You expect me to believe your primitive species trapped the mightiest fleet in the galaxy by accident? Believe what you want, Joe replied. But if we don't work together, we all die when the pocket collapses. There was a long pause before Krell responded. What do you need from us? Around the galaxy, the news continued to spread. On the Draconian homeworld, the Emperor himself called an emergency meeting of his war council. These humans must have help, the Emperor hissed. No, primitive species could develop such technology on their own. One advisor spoke up. Perhaps the Artaxians? They were rumored to be researching dimensional technology before we conquered them. Find out, the Emperor commanded, and prepare the planet killers. If our second fleet fails, we will destroy the entire solar system from a safe distance. Meanwhile, on a dozen worlds, rebellion was turning to revolution. On the mining planet Vex 4, Draconian overseers were overwhelmed by workers who had suffered for generations. On the agricultural world Telos, farmers burned the crops meant for Draconian masters. Earth has shown us they can be defeated, became the rallying cry. In the hidden rebel base on Nor 7, leaders gathered to plan their next move. We should contact these humans, one suggested. Form an alliance. If they truly have the power to make Draconian fleets vanish, they won't need our help, another argued. But we need theirs, a third said. And we can offer something valuable. Information about the Empire. Back on the moon, Agent Crick stared at the simulation on Dr. Young's screen, his Draconian confidence visibly shaken. This can't be true, he said. You couldn't have created this by accident. But we did, Alice insisted. And now we need to fix it before it's too late. Joe looked at the Draconian spy. Your people have more advanced technology than we do. We need your help to save your fleet, and ourselves. Crix looked from the humans to the screen and back again. Slowly, reluctantly, he nodded. If what you say is true, then we face a common enemy. Time. I will help you. But understand this. If you're lying, if this is some trick, I will personally ensure your world burns. As the humans and the Draconian began to work together, Ambassador Zixavoon sent an urgent message to the Galactic Council. The situation is more complex than we thought. Earth's power may be accidental, but the danger is real. Request immediate scientific assistance. The clock was ticking. 6 days until the pocket dimension collapsed. 8 days until the second Draconian fleet arrived. And across the galaxy, the balance of power continued to shift, all because of a tiny blue planet that no one had considered important until now. The lab at Lunar Base Alpha had become an unlikely place of cooperation. Agent Crix, the Draconian spy, worked side by side with Dr. Alice Young and Commander Joe Thompson. His scaled fingers moved across the alien device he had smuggled to Earth. This scanner can detect quantum fluctuations better than your primitive tools, Crix explained. It confirms your theory. The pocket dimension is collapsing. Alice studied the readings from the Draconian device. This helps a lot. Now we can see exactly how the dimensional walls are thinning. Joe looked at the countdown clock they had set up. 4 days until collapse. We need to work faster. Work. Crix's yellow eyes narrowed. The second fleet arrives in 6 days. If they enter this system before we solve this problem, everyone dies. In orbit around Earth, Captain Susan Miller's ship had become a critical communication relay. The unique position where the Draconian fleet had vanished was the only place where clear signals could pass between dimensions. Admiral Krell, are you receiving our instructions? Susan asked into her radio. The Draconian admiral's voice came through clearer than before. Yes, Captain Miller. We are modifying our engines as directed. But my engineers are skeptical. They say this could destroy our ships. It's a risk, Susan admitted. But if we don't try, your fleet is doomed anyway. The pocket dimension is collapsing. There was a pause before Krell responded. Very well. We will be ready for the attempt in 12 hours. Lieutenant Paul Green muted the communication channel. Do you think this will work, Captain? Susan stared out at the stars. I hope so, because we're running out of options. On Earth, Laura Bennett and Ambassador Zixavoon stood in the Oval Office with the President and General Carter. A holographic display showed the position of the approaching Draconian fleet. 6 days until they arrive, General Carter reported. Our defenses are on high alert, but realistically we can't stop them. The President looked tired. And our scientists on the moon? Making progress, Laura said. They think they can rescue the trapped fleet by reversing the quantum displacement field. But there's a problem. Of course there is, the President sighed. Laura continued. If we bring back the Draconian fleet, we reveal that our superweapon was just an accident. We lose the only advantage we have. Ambassador Zixavoon's skin turned a thoughtful blue. But if you don't rescue them and the pocket dimension collapses, the energy release destroys your solar system. A lose-lose situation, the president said. Perhaps not, Zixvoon replied. There may be a third option, one that positions Earth as both powerful and merciful. Everyone in the room turned to the alien ambassador. I'm listening, the president said. Zixvoon's skin shifted to confident green. You rescue the Draconian fleet under specific conditions. You make it appear that this was always within your power. You demonstrate strength by showing mercy. Will the Draconians accept terms from us? General Carter asked skeptically. They will if the alternative is death, Zixvoon said. And with witnesses from the Galactic Council present during the rescue, your position would be greatly strengthened. Laura nodded slowly. It could work. We turn a desperate situation into a diplomatic victory. The president stood up. Make it happen. Contact the Galactic Council. I want representatives from as many worlds as possible to witness this rescue operation. Back on the moon, the work continued day and night. Agent Crix had become an unexpected ally, his knowledge of Draconian technology proving invaluable. Your quantum theories are surprisingly advanced for primitives, he told Alice as they calibrated equipment. Alice smiled. And you're surprisingly helpful for someone who came here to spy on us. Crix made a sound that might have been a laugh. Self-preservation is a strong motivator. I don't wish to die when that pocket dimension collapses. Joe entered the lab with, Newsy, we've got company coming. The Galactic Council is sending a delegation to witness our rescue attempt. Representatives from 12 species will arrive tomorrow. Alice looked alarmed. Tomorrow, but we're not ready. We have to be, Joe replied. This is about more than just the science now. It's about Earth's future in the galaxy. In deep space, the second Draconian fleet continued its approach to Earth. Commander Vex studied the incoming reports from Agent Crix with growing concern. The spy claims their story is true, he told his officers. The humans trapped our fleet accidentally, and now that same accident threatens to destroy the system. It could be a trap, one officer suggested. Perhaps, Vex agreed. But we cannot ignore the possibility that he speaks the truth. Slow our approach. We will observe from a safe distance. Across the galaxy, the news spread that Earth was attempting to rescue the very fleet that had come to conquer it. On rebel worlds, opinions were divided. If they free the Draconians, they betray us all, some argued. If they can control whether the Draconians live or die, they are even more powerful than we thought, others countered. On Noor 7, the Rebel Council made a decision. Send a ship to Earth. We must see this with our own eyes. The next day, Lunar Base Alpha became the center of galactic attention. Ships from a dozen worlds orbited nearby, their representatives shuttled to the observation deck overlooking the main laboratory. Ambassador Zixvoon introduced each visitor to the president and Laura Bennett. There were tall, willowy beings with translucent skin, short, stocky creatures with 4 arms, and even a gaseous entity contained in a floating sphere. The galaxy watches Earth, Zixvoon said quietly to Laura. Make this count. In the lab below, visible through a large window, Joe, Alice, and Agent Crix made final preparations. The modified quantum displacement generator hummed with power. All representatives are present, Joe said into his headset. Captain Miller, are you in position? From her ship, Susan replied. In position. Admiral Krell reports his fleet is ready. All systems modified as instructed. Joe looked at Alice. Ready? She nodded, her face tense with concentration. Ready. Beginning power-up sequence. General Carter joined the president and Laura on the observation deck. Our moment of truth, he whispered. The alien representatives watched with various expressions, of interest, skepticism, and awe as the humans worked. None of them suspected that what they were witnessing was a desperate gamble, rather than a demonstration of advanced technology. Phase 1 complete, Alice announced. Generating quantum field. The air in front of the lab seemed to shimmer and bend. Phase 2, Joe called out. Expanding field to match pocket dimension coordinates. The shimmering area grew larger. From her ship, Susan monitored the readings. We're detecting fluctuations in the pocket dimension. It's responding to our field. In the trapped fleet, Admiral Krell gave orders. Activate modified engines now. The aliens watched as the shimmering area suddenly flashed with brilliant light. Gasps and murmurs filled the observation deck. It's working, Alice exclaimed. The dimensions are merging. For one terrible moment, everything seemed to hang in balance. The equipment sparked and smoked. Warnings blared throughout the lab. Then, in the blackness of space near Earth's moon, something impossible happened. Space itself seemed to tear, open, and through that tear came ships, hundreds of them. The missing Draconian Obsidian fleet, returning to normal space after what had been, for them, a nightmare lasting mere hours. On the observation deck, the alien representatives erupted in excited chatter. Ambassador Zixavoon's skin turned bright gold, the color of amazement. Laura Bennett stepped forward, addressing the gathered aliens. Earth has demonstrated both power and mercy today. The same technology that removed the threat from our world has now been used to save lives. Let this be known throughout the galaxy. Earth seeks peace, but we are not defenseless. In the lab, Alice collapsed into a chair, exhausted but triumphant. Joe checked the readings, and then looked up with a smile. We did it, he said simply. Agent. Crick stared at the screen showing the rescued fleet. His expression was unreadable. Yes, he said finally. It seems you did. Admiral Krell stood rigid on the bridge of his flagship, trying to hide his disorientation. One moment his fleet had been approaching Earth to conquer it. The next, they were trapped in a strange, empty void where time seemed to crawl. And now, suddenly they were back in normal space. Their ships intact but systems damaged, facing the very planet they had come to destroy. Status report, he demanded. All ships present and accounted for, Admiral, his second-in-command replied. But our weapon systems are offline. Life support is stable. 3 months have passed in normal space while we were trapped. 3 months? Krell hissed in surprise. Impossible. The main screen activated, showing an incoming transmission. The face that appeared belonged to Captain Susan Miller. Admiral Krell, she greeted him. On behalf of Earth, I welcome you back to normal space. A shuttle will arrive shortly to bring you to Lunar Base Alpha for a diplomatic meeting. Krell's scales bristled. You expect me to come unarmed to your base after what you've done? Aden's expression remained neutral. What we've done is rescue your fleet from certain destruction. Representatives from 12 worlds of the Galactic Council are waiting to meet with you. And Admiral, the second Draconian fleet is holding position at the edge of our solar system, watching everything that happens here. After she ended the transmission, Krell turned to his officers. What are our options? Very few, Admiral, one replied. Our weapons are disabled. The humans could have left us to die but chose to save us instead. And with witnesses from the Council present, Krell nodded slowly. Prepare my shuttle. On the moon, in a large conference room hastily prepared for the historic meeting, Laura Bennett stood beside the President of Earth. Around them were the alien representatives from the Galactic Council, their varied forms creating a strange but impressive gathering. Are you ready for this? The President asked quietly. Laura took a deep breath. As ready as I'll ever be. Everything changes today. The doors opened, and Admiral Krell entered, flanked by 2 Draconian officers. His imposing scaled form towered over most of those present. Only Ambassador Zixavoon matched his height. Admiral Krell, the President stepped forward. Welcome to Earth territory. Krell's yellow eyes scanned the room, noting the many witnesses. An unexpected welcome, considering we came to conquer your world. Yet here we are, the President replied. Both sides alive, when destruction could have been the outcome. Ambassador Zixavoon moved to the center of the room, skin shifting to a formal purple. This meeting is now officially recognized by the Galactic Council. Earth has demonstrated both great power and great mercy. The question before us is, what happens next? All eyes turned to Admiral Krell. For a long moment, the Draconian commander was silent. Then he spoke. In 3,000 years of expansion, the Draconian Empire has never encountered a situation like this. We came to conquer. We were defeated. By accident or design matters little. And then, when you could have let us perish, you saved us. He turned to look directly at the president. Why? It was Laura who answered. Because that's who we are. Humans make mistakes, terrible ones sometimes. We created a weapon by accident that nearly destroyed us all. But when faced with a choice between destruction and salvation, we choose salvation. Even for our enemies. In the back of the room, Joe Thompson and Alice Young watched the exchange. Beside them stood Agent Crix, no longer a prisoner but not quite an ally. She's good, Alice whispered to Joe, making our desperate gamble sound like planned mercy. Joe nodded. Sometimes perception matters more than reality. From the corner of his mouth, Crix added, a lesson my people learned long ago. At the front of the room, Admiral Krell made his decision. The Draconian Empire recognizes Earth as a sovereign power. We will withdraw both fleets from your system immediately. A murmur went through the alien representatives. This was unprecedented. Furthermore, Krell continued, we propose a non-aggression pact. Earth will not use its capability against Draconian worlds, and we will not seek to conquer Earth. The president nodded. Acceptable terms. We have no interest in using our technology aggressively. Laura caught the subtle smile on Ambassador Zixavoon's face. The plan had worked perfectly. Earth was now positioned as a powerful but peaceful world, worthy of respect in the galactic community. As the formal agreements were drawn up, General Carter joined Joe and Alice. You two pulled off a miracle, he said quietly. But now we have another problem. The galaxy thinks we can make fleets disappear at will. Sooner or later, someone will test that belief. Alice looked worried. We can't reproduce what happened. It was 1,000,000 to 1 accident. Then we better start working on making the impossible possible, Joe replied. Because our reputation now depends on it. After the meeting, the president addressed the people of Earth via a global broadcast. News cameras captured the historic moment as ships from a dozen worlds orbited peacefully above the planet. Today, Earth takes its place among the galactic community not as a conquered world, but as a respected power, the president announced. Through a combination of scientific achievement and moral choice, we have turned potential enemies into potential friends. What the cameras didn't show were the private conversations happening behind the scenes. In a quiet corner, Laura Bennett spoke with Ambassador Zixavoon. How long can we maintain this illusion? She asked. We can't actually make ships disappear on command. Zixavoon's skin turned a knowing blue. Perhaps not yet, but the galaxy doesn't know that. Sometimes reputation is more powerful than actual capability. Use this time wisely, Earth. Learn. Grow. Prepare. On the Draconian flagship, Admiral Krell received a direct communication from the Emperor himself. You made the right choice, Admiral, the Emperor said. For now, we will let the humans believe they have won. But we will watch, we will learn, and one day when we understand their technology, we will return. Krell bowed. As you command, Emperor. As the Draconian fleets departed, and the various alien representatives prepared to return to their worlds, Earth found itself in an unexpected position, suddenly important, suddenly respected, and suddenly very much in the spotlight of galactic politics. In the lab at Lunar Base Alpha, Joe and Alice looked out at the Earth glowing blue and beautiful in the blackness of space. Do you think we can do it? Alice asked. Actually develop the technology they think we already have. Joe smiled. If there's one thing humans are good at, it's living up to expectations, especially when everyone says it's impossible. Agent A. Crix, preparing to return to his people, overheard them. You humans are strange creatures. You stumble upon great power by accident, then pretend it was intentional, and now plan to make the lie true. Is that admiration I hear? Joe asked. For the first time, the Draconian spy gave what might have been a smile. Perhaps. Your species bears watching. As ships from across the galaxy orbited Earth in a peaceful display that would have been unimaginable, just days before, Laura Bennett stood at a window in the United Nations building watching the sky. "What have we done?" she whispered to herself. General Carter, standing nearby, answered, "We've bought time, and in the grand scheme of things that might be the most valuable resource of all." Above them, the stars looked different now. Not just distant points of light, but places with people, politics, and problems. Earth was no longer alone, no longer isolated. For better or worse, humanity had stumbled onto the galactic stage, and the whole galaxy was watching to see what they would do next.